Welcome to the Ebbs of History, the show where we dive into the strangest, wildest, and sometimes downright creepiest stories the past has to offer. From dancing plagues to pirate queens, you'll laugh, you'll gasp, you'll even groan at my impeccable dad jokes. But most importantly, we'll learn how history is way cooler than your textbook ever told you.
We're your history-loving hosts, Zoe,
Gavin,
And I'm Jason, and in every episode, the three of us will take a quick trip through time and see what lessons we can still learn today. This is the Ebbs of History. Hey there, history lovers. Welcome back to another episode of Ebbs of History. We're so glad you're here with us today. So, Zoe, Gavin, how's your spring break going so far?
it's going good. Been relaxing a lot.
it's been amazing. I haven't barely left the house. It's amazing.
We went to Top Golf today.
Yeah, it was a
and
lot of fun.
That was really fun. It's always fun. It's only the second time I've been there, but it's still really fun.
Kind of stinks because we're house sitting, huh?
Yeah.
Can't sleep in your own bed. But other than that, it's
Yeah.
been pretty good.
It has been nice being able to go outside,
Yeah.
Just like,
All right. Before we start this week's show, I have two things to say. First, I want to give a shout out to Alistair P. for suggesting today's topic. Alistair, it's listeners like you that keep us coming back week after week. Thank you. Second, I have decided to make the questions in the Fun Fact Challenge harder. I usually go easy on you two, but you've shown me incredible note-taking skills, except for Gavin on the last episode.
well, I just didn't take notes that time.
Big mistake, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
At least I didn't get swept.
Well, it's time to kick it up a notch. You guys get those way too easily, so I'm going to start making them a little bit.
Oh, no.
So keep that in mind during today's episode.
Okay, I'll take my notes.
Let's jump in. Today's story is about Pope Joan, a woman who, according to legend, disguised herself as a man, rose through the ranks of the Catholic Church, and became Pope in the 9th century. And allegedly, her secret was only discovered when she gave birth during a papal procession. If that doesn't make you say, wait, what? I don't know what will. So the question is, did this actually happen? Or is it one of history's greatest myths? Let's lay some groundwork. The legend of Pope Joan is absolutely wild, and it starts, as many good stories do, with a young woman who refused to accept the limitations society placed on her. According to the most popular versions of the tale, Joan was born in the early 9th century, possibly in a town of Maine, which is in what's now Germany. Some accounts say that she was English, others say that she was Greek. Honestly, the sources really can't agree on much in this story, which should probably be our first clue about how this story's historiography is going to go. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Joan was reportedly brilliant, like super uber scary smart. She had an insatiable appetite for knowledge, which, for women in the 9th century, is basically a recipe for frustration and disaster. Women weren't exactly encouraged to become scholars back then. In fact, they were actively discouraged. Education was for men only, especially if you wanted to study theology or philosophy. Let me paint you a picture of what life was like for women in the 9th century. Most women were expected to marry young, have children, manage a household, and not much else. The idea of a woman reading Latin texts or debating philosophy, that was considered not just unusual, but dangerous. The prevailing belief was that women's minds weren't capable of higher learning, or worse, that educating women would make them rebellious and unmanageable. Zoe, imagine you couldn't go to school. You had to stay at home, clean the house, cook, and then find a husband and have kids. Those were the only things you were allowed to do for your entire life. But it was assumed that those things were believed to be the only things that you could do. How would you feel about that?
Really upset. Really upset. Like, I'm so limited. Like, there's nothing I do. But it's kind of like, it's like your parents saying that you have one path, but it's society saying you only have one thing that you can do.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. When your parents say your parents are doctors and they say, well, you have to be a doctor because we're doctors.
Yeah.
It limits you,
It's limiting.
but it's society saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. I do like that we've come as far enough to, I can say be a doctor as my example,
Yeah.
Versus being educated or doing anything outside the home.
Yeah.
So that's how it was back then. So when Joan showed exceptional intelligence and curiosity, she was fighting against centuries of assumptions about what women could and should do. According to legend, Joan fell in love with a monk. Let's call him her boyfriend. He was the one who introduced her to the world of learning. They studied together in secret, and Joan discovered that she had a real gift for it. She devoured every text she could: philosophy, theology, rhetoric, logic. She excelled at all of it. But here's the tragedy. When her boyfriend died, Joan was left alone with all this knowledge and nowhere to use it. She couldn't become a scholar. She couldn't attend university. Every door was closed to her simply because of her gender. If you were Joan and had this incredible thirst for knowledge, but society told you that it wasn't allowed, would you give up on learning or would you find a way?
I would find a way just to like spite. Just out of spite.
Yeah.
Just out of spite.
Yeah.
Not to learn, but just out of spite to be able to say, I can do it.
Well, to learn depth.
Obviously, but
But,
I'm just saying,
you know.
yeah.
I do agree. Yeah.
So you'd find a way?
Yes.
Cool.
I mean, she did find a way. She became
Yeah.
Pope.
There you go. Joan wanted to continue her education, but obviously, as a woman, she couldn't just waltz into a monastery or cathedral school and sign up for classes. So, Joan found a way. She made a radical decision. If the world wouldn't let her learn as a woman, she would become a man. So, Joan disguised herself as a man. Think about that for a second. This is the 9th century. No chest binders, no modern underwear or shapewear, no contemporary technologies or conveniences whatsoever. Just some baggy robes, strategic binding with cloth strips, and sheer determination. She had to change her walk, lower her voice, adapt male mannerisms, and never, not even for a moment, let the disguise slip. And apparently, she was really good at it, as we will see later. Can you imagine the commitment? I can barely commit to whether I want my beard long or short. And this woman is out here living a double life for years. Every morning she woke up, she had to become someone else. Every interaction was a performance. One mistake, one slip of the tongue, one suspicious glance, and it could all come crashing down. Now, here's a question for the two of you. What do you think would be the hardest part of living this kind of double life? The physical disguise or the constant fear of being discovered?
Fear. Just like I feel like the fear would make the chances of her getting discovered higher
Mhm.
because you're so nervous that you will get discovered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and make a mistake because of the fear.
Yeah.
It's like a vicious circle. How about you, Zoe?
I was gonna say what he said.
Yeah?
Because it's like the fear makes you scared that you're gonna mess up, and then you get in your own head, and then you mess up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like whenever I have a scene in class and it's time to perform it. Like I know my lines. I know everything. It's just I get in my head, and then I end up something goes wrong.
It's the fear.
Yeah.
That fear is uncontrollable. You can control whether you know your lines or not. You can't control the fear that you feel getting up there on stage. Yeah.
That's a good example.
It is.
Because you do everything you can to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you can, but something always happens.
Yeah. You'll get better with time, you know. That's basically what she did.
Yeah.
Over time, I'm sure the fear lessened, but it was still always there. It's never going to go away. So Joan, now going by the name Johannes Anglicus. In English, that's a Latin term for John the Englishman.
Mm.
So Joan, or Johann Anglicus, traveled to Athens to study. And here's where her brilliance really shines through. She didn't just blend in, she excelled. She became known for her incredible intellect and her mastery of theology, philosophy, and rhetoric. People were impressed, like really impressed. Imagine being in a classroom with her, this young man who could quote Augustine and Aristotle from memory, who could construct arguments so elegantly that even the most learned scholars stopped to listen. Joan wasn't just getting by, she was becoming one of the most respected scholars of her time. Eventually, she made her way to Rome, the heart of the Catholic Church and the center of Christian learning in Europe. In Rome, Joan's reputation continued to grow. She became a teacher, instructing other clergy in theology and philosophy. Then she became a notary, recording important church documents and decisions. Then it starts to get really wild. She became a cardinal, one of the most powerful positions in the Catholic Church, just one step below the Pope himself. She was climbing the ranks of the Catholic Church like she was on some kind of medieval corporate ladder. And nobody suspected a thing. Are you wondering how that's even possible?
Yeah.
I mean, did nobody ever question
Are
anything?
just like that dumb back then?
Mhm.
I don't think so, but like, I guess they just.
I mean, because if you think about it, great minds of the time,
Yes.
it's like at this point in time, like historically, it's famous for all the famous writers and thinkers and philosophers and
Hmm.
everything like that. And then they let her go by. Like there's something off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she just had to be really lucky with private bathrooms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, uh,
At that point.
she had to go into the male bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Did nobody ever notice that she didn't grow a beard either?
Mm.
You know?
Well, she saved it. I feel like it just must have been a really good disguise mixed with a little just like idiocracy, I guess.
Idiocy, yeah.
So yeah.
But medieval clergy were known for being fairly private about personal matters. Many monks and priests lived in individual cells, maintained personal privacy for prayer and study, and it wasn't considered unusual for someone to be modest or reclusive. It was actually preferred. Joan must have used every bit of that monastic expectation to her advantage. Here's something to think about. Joan could have stopped climbing the medieval corporate ladder and stayed being a scholar or a teacher. Why do you think she kept going and climbing higher in the church?
It's that like lust for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just you want more, you want more, you want more. Like it's that thirst for knowledge. It's the thirst for just wanting. She's just a curious person, just wanting to know more, and maybe that in her mind, that's the way to get it, more knowledge. Like
Maybe.
I feel like kind of just like to prove herself that she could do it.
That's what I think. That's exactly what I think. At some point, if it were me, I'd just keep going to see if I could keep going.
Yeah.
You know? How long can I go without being discovered?
Kind of like a game by that point. Like,
I'd be thinking, I've gotten this far and these idiots haven't figured it out. Why not just keep going?
Yeah.
According to legend, in the year 855 or 857, depending on who you ask, you know how history can be tricky like that, Pope Leo IV died. The cardinals gathered to elect a new pope, and who do you think they chose?
Joan.
Joan. Or rather, they chose Johannes Anglicus, the brilliant scholar and theologian who had so impressed everyone with his knowledge and piety. Picture the moment. The cardinals vote, white smoke rises from the chimney, and Joan, this woman who had spent years pretending to be a man just to learn, is now the head of the entire Catholic Church, the most powerful religious figure in Europe, the spiritual leader of millions of Christians.
and like for that time, the Pope had so much power.
Yeah.
Like more power than they have today.
God on earth.
Mm-hmm. God on earth, exactly.
Like
God is a woman.
that is just like so much power that she got.
So now we have a woman sitting on the throne of St. Peter. She's leading masses in St. Peter's Basilica. She's making theological decisions that affect the entire Christian world. She's meeting with kings and emperors. She's basically running the entire show. And still, nobody knows. Can you imagine the stress? Like, forget about the whole leading the Catholic Church thing for a second. Just imagine trying to keep that secret.
Yeah.
Every single day, public appearance, every private meeting, every moment of every day, she had to maintain the disguise. I get anxious when I forget someone's name that I see at the store. So this woman's out here living the ultimate undercover operation.
She's Hannah Montana.
There you go.
It's gotta be like more stressful than the actual like Pope job itself.
I agree. I definitely agree. But here's where everything falls apart. According to the legend, Joan had been the Pope for about 2 years when disaster struck. During this time, she had apparently been having a secret relationship with one of her close advisors. Because of course she was. I mean, you don't go through all this trouble just to live a boring life, right? Plus, she's a human. She has needs and desires and emotions just like everyone else. And this goes right along with what I said earlier about what I would do. Let's see how far we can take it. Now, Joan becomes pregnant. Now, you may think to yourself, wait, how did she hide that? The answer is not very well. Loose robes can hide a lot, and papal vestments are notoriously voluminous, but there are limits. The most famous version of this story says that Joan went into labor during a papal procession. Picture it. It's a big public event, thousands of people lining the streets. It's not every day that you get to see the Pope in full regalia, parading through the streets of Rome. Banners are flying, incense is burning, hymns being sung. It was a grand procession, very ceremonial, very official, very public. Joan suddenly goes into labor right there in the street. Somewhere between the Colosseum and St. John Lateran, depending on which account you read, there's no hiding it now. The pain is too intense, the contractions too strong, and then, in front of thousands of shocked onlookers, the baby is born.
Oh my God.
The crowd erupts. Some people are screaming, others are praying. Many are simply frozen in disbelief. The secret is out in the most dramatic public way imaginable.
I can imagine being one of those people and just being like, what the heck? What? Whoa, whoa,
Yep.
whoa, whoa.
And according to most versions of the tale, Joan dies shortly after, either from complications of the childbirth, which was incredibly common in the 9th century, or from the mob of angry Romans who were, understandably, pretty upset about the whole situation. Some versions say that she was dragged behind a horse through the streets. Others say she was quickly buried in an unmarked grave, and the church tried to erase all evidence of her existence. A few accounts claim that she survived, was deposed, and lived out her days in quiet penance at a remote convent. But here's what allegedly happened next that really cements this legend in history. And I swear I am not making this up. Oh, God. The church was so traumatized by this incident that they supposedly created a special ritual. Before any new pope could be officially installed, he had to sit on a special chair. A chair with a hole cut in the seat. So that a specially designated cardinal could reach up and physically verify that the new pope was, in fact, a male.
Right.
You heard that right. The papal testicle check. And apparently, after the examination, the cardinal announces, Duos habet et bene pendentis, which translates to, he has two and they hang well.
I mean, like, what the heck?
This is supposedly the actual phrase used in the ceremony. Now, I don't know about you, but that has got to be the most awkward job in the entire Catholic Church. So, what do you do for a living? Oh, I verify papal anatomy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not much.
Final question for you, too. Do you think Joan's story, whether true or not, is ultimately tragic, inspiring, or maybe both?
A little bit of both. Like the tragedy by the end, but it's very inspiring by the beginning and middle.
Okay.
You know?
Zoe?
I think it's inspiring because it's like doing what people think that you're not supposed to or going to do. It's how women's rights progress throughout history, and it's like it's people trying and trying and trying for,
And yet she persisted.
and yeah,
Mm.
and like if you think like this is one of the first acts, I guess, of feminism, if you really think about it like that. I mean,
Yeah? Yeah, I mean, there's probably some other ones, like maybe Lady Godiva or
yeah, but
things like that, but
you know,
yeah, I agree. It's a good point. So that's the legend of Pope Joan, a brilliant woman who defied every social norm, risked everything for knowledge and achievement, became pope, and whose secret was revealed in the most dramatic way possible. It's got everything: forbidden knowledge, secret identities, scandal, tragedy, and ecclesiastical anatomy checks. Historiography. Here's the thing about Pope Joan. Most historians today believe that she never existed. The legend almost certainly isn't true, and not because of a cover-up, but because of the evidence, or rather, the total lack of it. The story doesn't appear in any 9th century sources. Not a single contemporary chronicle, letter, or church record from the era even hints at a female pope. The tale first shows up in the 13th century, roughly 400 years after Joan supposedly lived, in the chronicles of the Dominican friar named Martin of Opava. From there, it spread like wildfire across medieval Europe, and for a surprisingly long time, many people, including some within the church, accepted it as true.
I don't know. The first thing I could think of is they scratched it from the records because they were embarrassed that they didn't catch it.
Maybe.
Time.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I can think of.
Yeah, that's like
when you say that there's actually no evidence of it.
It's an interesting way to critically think about that.
But definitely makes sense, though.
It would make sense, yeah. During the Protestant Reformation, the legend became a favorite polemical weapon. Protestant reformers pointed to Pope Joan as proof that the Catholic Church was corrupt and dishonest. The Church pushed back hard, and in 1601, Pope Clement VIII officially declared the story a myth. 1647, French historian David Blondel published a thorough scholarly dismantling of the legend, which most historians describe as the definitive demolition. Modern scholars point to a clear timeline that leaves no room for a 2-year female papacy between Pope Leo IV and his successor, Benedict III. The papal succession records are intact. No gap exists. No contemporary sources support Joan's existence. The Cambridge History of the Papacy concludes the legend likely began as a popular satire that was picked up by chroniclers with their own agendas. And yet, here we are, still talking about it.
Yeah.
Why? Because the story taps into something very real. Questions about who gets access to power, who gets to be educated, and whether institutions tell the full truth about their own histories. That's exactly what you were saying, Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
The legend of Pope Joan endures not because it's factual, but because it's meaningful. Lessons we've learned today. So what do we take away from the legend of Pope Joan, even if she never existed?
Kind of like what I was saying previously, just the access to education, the access to kind of what you were just saying, the like women's rights thing, where it all goes. Do they quote unquote deserve to have education, deserve to have rights? It's kind of like not an ethical debate, but it's, I don't know, it's just the case of women when they don't have the rights that they want or think that they deserve, they just take it and they do what they can to get what they deserve. And even if it's just like, I don't know, sneaking into a factory and doing a shift or
Mhm.
being Pope, like
Instead of being subservient, they actually go about and do something about
Yeah.
the inequities.
they don't just sit around.
Yeah.
Okay. Gavin, any thoughts?
I feel kind of just to push yourself to complete feats that seem impossible
Mm-hmm.
to you, but aren't, and you end up doing them,
Mm-hmm.
Like, just, like, believe in yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Push yourself.
All right, I've got a couple. First, the hunger for knowledge is universal and unstoppable. Whether Joan was real or not, the story reflects a truth. Throughout history, countless brilliant people were denied education, advancement, and recognition solely because of their gender, race, or class. Their potential was locked away by systems that feared what they might become. We should ask ourselves, who are we still locking out today? The eyebrows go up. Second, institutions often shape their own historical narratives. That's exactly what you were saying, Zoe.
Yeah. Because there's no record,
Mm-hmm.
but there's this whole fledged out story.
So you could take the no record thing 2 ways. One, it never actually happened.
Never actually happened.
Or B, it was erased.
Because,
Redacted.
I mean, that's kind of like a really embarrassing thing.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
didn't realize that a woman was Pope for 2 years?
Right.
That's embarrassing.
And
is.
she was able to climb through the ranks of the clergy for
Uh-huh.
even longer.
And everyone thought she was this marvel.
Mm-hmm.
That's embarrassing. Like, just from
So,
you. And
it's so embarrassing, and yes, it's super embarrassing and all that kind of stuff. They didn't catch it. Doesn't that make you lean towards believing that it actually didn't happen? Because it is just so outrageous that something that big would go unnoticed for so long,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 That's it. There's always 2 sides to something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the last one, myths carry meaning even when they lack facts. The
Yeah.
story of Pope Joan has been used across the centuries as a mirror, reflecting anxieties about gender and power, about what the church is and what it should be.
Yeah. Although it might not be true, we could still learn from the myth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be real to learn something from it.
Yeah. Today, her stories become a feminist symbol and a cultural touchstone. History isn't just about what happened, it's about what stories we tell and why we keep telling them. It's time for the Fun Fact Challenge. Hard edition. All right, you two know the rules. Let me finish the question. You lock in, and I say your name. You give the answer. Best of 3. Question 1. The Pope Joan legend first appeared in written chronicles approximately how many years after she supposedly reigned?
Locked in.
Zoe.
600 years.
Incorrect.
Can I go?
Gavin.
200 years.
Also incorrect. About 400 years.
I knew like
You guys are all over
we
it.
were hugging it. Hugging it.
Oh,
The story first appears in the 13th century, while Joan supposedly reigned in the 9th century. All right, tied going into question 2. That's a first. Question 2. This story says that the sources can't agree on which detail about Joan.
wait, can you say
Can
that
you say
again?
that again?
The story that I just told,
Mm-hmm.
everything that you just listened to, there was a part where I said that the sources just can't agree on this.
Locked in?
Locked in.
Gavin.
The fact that it's real or not?
Well,
No.
I guess that is one, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Ah.
I don't think there's a debate on that.
Okay.
Locked in?
Zoe.
Whether it was 1855 or 1857 that Joan took the throne.
I'm going to give it to you because that is true. That is debated, but that's history. The answer that I have was where she was born.
What?
She may have been born in Mainz, Germany. She may have been from England. Some say she was from Greece.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right, Zoe, you're up by 1. Question 3. What Latin phrase was supposedly announced by a cardinal after physically verifying a new pope's gender, according to the legend?
Locked in. He has 2 and they hang well.
Perfect. Spot on. Duos habet et bene pendentis.
Yeah, I'm not getting that in Latin. The only Latin phrase I know is Deus ex machina.
What's that?
It's in literature when basically it's like, oh, and it was idolatry. It's just a fancy word for idolatry. Basically.
Do we have a tiebreaker?
We have a tie.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we've had a tie?
No, I
No,
think
it's
we've
not.
had
No,
one
because we did
before.
a closest to the pin. Okay, first tiebreaker. There are 2 answers to this question. You only need to give one of them.
Can we give first 2?
You can if you have them, yeah. Modern scholars point to a clear timeline that leaves no room for a 2-year female papacy between what 2 popes?
Locked in.
Zoe,
Leo?
I'm gonna need a regnal number.
Leo the 4th.
That is correct.
No.
Gavin, do you know the other one?
Too.
Yeah.
In between, wait, will I not get the point if I get the after one wrong?
No. Yeah. I mean, you'll get the point. You won.
Oh, shucks.
So what's the second one? Do you know it? Gavin, do you know it?
No, I don't know it.
Yeah, go for it.
Clement?
Incorrect.
Because you mentioned Clement before. Who
I
was
did.
it? John? Urban?
That's another.
Bennett?
Benedict. Benedict the
Benedict.
Third.
He doesn't get that.
No.
Cool, I knew it.
All right, good job, Zoe. You won that round.
Tough one. This day in history.
Today is April 16th. And on this day in 1521, Martin Luther arrives at the Diet of Worms.
It's not pronounced Worms?
No, it's Worms.
Oh.
Germans pronounce W's as V's.
Oh. I just watched a Heimler video on this.
Really?
Yeah?
For my review, yeah.
Oh,
We
fair.
were talking about Protestant Reformation and started talking about Martin Luther.
Very cool. Today, in 1521, he arrived at the Diet of Worms. The German theologian stood before Holy Roman Emperor Charles V to defend his writings, challenging the Catholic Church, refusing to recant and setting the stage for
Protestant Reformation?
the Protestant Reformation.
I better have gone that one.
April 16th, 1917, Vladimir Lenin returns to Russia from exile. After years abroad, Lenin arrived at Petrograd's Finland station, where he delivered his famous April thesis calling for an immediate Bolshevik revolution, one that would arrive just months later.
And that started communism in Russia.
That's correct.
What year was that?
1917. And then on April 16th in 2003, 10 new member states are admitted to the European Union. The Treaty of Accession, signed in Athens, brought Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Cyprus, and 6 others into the EU, the largest single expansion in the bloc's history.
That's because of those are like the Western Bloc states, right? and
Wouldn't that be Eastern Bloc?
Eastern Bloc. That's
Yeah.
what I meant, the Eastern Bloc, and they got added to the whatever NATO nation. What did you say?
European Union.
Oh, they got added to the EU because they got let from Soviet control. So is that why? That's why it was a bunch at one time.
I believe so, yeah. I think you're right. I don't know off the top of my head.
Because it's like all of the block. It's that border.
Yeah, it's a very large portion.
It's the border states.
Mhm. That's it for this episode. Thanks for traveling through time with us on the Ebbs of History. If you like today's story, share it with a teacher, a friend, or your family on Instagram at Ebbs of History. If you have any show ideas, corrections, or questions, you can contact us at questions@ebbsofhistory.com.
Signing off, this has been your co-host, Gavin.
Zoe.
And me, Jason, reminding you that history is not just about dates and battles. It's about people, curiosity, and the weird, wonderful choices that shaped our world. Until next time, keep wondering, keep laughing, and keep learning through the Ebbs of History.